This NFL Week 10 edition pregame show of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MACHINE to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
And taking a shot to Brown downfield. He makes the catch, and he gets in for the touchdown. The catch is made by Calvin Ridley.
Wilson, what as he throws deep downfield. It's going to be caught by
Welcome, everyone, to the NFL Week 10 pregame show, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. NFL Week 10 upon us. We already have action across the pond right now between the beloved New York Giants and the Carolina Panthers. Oh boy, what a game it is right now. But joining me for this pregame show, as usual, you guys know him as a voice of the MLB Gambling Podcast, of course, on the NBA Gambling Podcast as well. Got my guy here with me. It's Lonte Smith. Lonte, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Glad to be back here with you. You weren't with us last week, so it's been like 2 weeks since we did this, right? Because you were out last week. Yeah, it was me and Scott last week, right?
Yeah, you and Scott last week. Yeah.
So yeah, man, good to have you back.
Yeah, man, it's been a fun ride so far. Still a lot of course, football left to be played, entering the double-digit weeks of the NFL season. Games going across the pond. So it should be a fun week of NFL, action here on Sunday. You guys know how we do it here. Of course, we'll go through every single game, give you our player props. If we do have any, we'll put together our touchdown parlay for the Sunday games here as well. And hopefully we get some more tickets, cash for you guys with our prop bets for this week 10 schedule here. Lonte, let's get into it here, man. Of course, we'll skip the game that's already started across the pond there between the Giants and the Panthers. So we'll move it here to the first game, kicking off in the 1 o'clock window. We got the Buffalo Bills. They are in Indy to take on the Colts here. Colts catching 4.5 points here at home with a total of 46.5 here. Lonte, any player props you're looking at in this game?
Yeah, I like two. So we're gonna start off with Shakir. It's over 62.5. I think it's 62.5, like minus 15, minus 20. Anywhere between that range, it's fine. I mean, they're gonna be down. Obviously, Coleman. I think Cooper is still questionable, but if he goes, he's not going to be 100%. We know that Indy struggles with the position in the slot. I think Shakir operates a lot out of the slot, so I think he can have a decent day. And he's a big play receiver, so you get him with 1 or 2 catches, and he probably can go over this number. Obviously, going to get a lot of the target share. Him and Kincaid, with a lot of those guys not having a good rapport with Allen as of yet. So I like him over 62.5. That's minus 115. You play it up to minus 20. And we're going to go with Jonathan Taylor over 20.5 receiving yards. I know he hasn't gone over this in, I think, the last 2 games. But if you look at the first 3, he's been right there at it. I think he went over 2 of those 3, and then he landed 20 in the other. So the Buffalo struggles with backside of the backfield. Jonathan Taylor is not a back who typically, has that kind of effect as a receiver. But in this role, I think a lot of the check down stuff will be available for him. So I like Jonathan Taylor over 20.5 receiving yards as well.
Yeah, 100% agree on Jonathan Taylor. Gave that out earlier on the Propcast this week with my guy Chris on our show. It was at 19.5. It's moved to 20.5. But I do think that this will be a good week here for Jonathan Taylor coming out of the backfield. More so just how many receiving yards the Buffalo Bills are giving up to the running back position. That's kind of been a theme for me throughout the season. I just really backing those running backs through the air against the Buffalo Bills. Bills are giving up 58 receiving yards to the running back position. We saw what Devon Achane did last week. He had 8 receptions, 8 targets, 58 yards. Yeah. Kenneth Walker, you just go down the list. A lot of these running backs have had success in that category. So agree with you on that. Also with Michael Pittman Jr. being out this week, I think they'll rely a little bit more on him as well. in this game here for the
for sure.
Indianapolis Colts.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't have much for the Bills side, but I agree about your take with Khalil Shakir. Excuse me, Keon Coleman being out for the Buffalo Bills. So yeah, for the Buffalo Bills, and we'll see if Amari Cooper does in fact suit up here today in this game.
Yep.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. One more I did want to mention. If you want to take a look at Josh Downs in this game for the Colts, his numbers.
That's everybody's favorite. This week.
And it makes sense, right? Because his numbers have been really, really good with Joe Flacco as a quarterback there.
I was gonna look at I was gonna look at my guy Pierce for like longest reception. You know, he's the deep threat.
Yeah.
I was gonna look at him, but his number kind of got away when the Pittman news came out. I played it a little bit earlier before Pittman got ruled out. So yeah.
All right, let's keep it moving here. Let's go over to the Minnesota Vikings. They are in Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Minnesota currently laying 7 points on the road here with a total of 43 here. Lonte, you got anything for Vikings Jags?
Yeah, I think what do I have? I have I got one. So we're gonna start with start in the end. You got Justin Jefferson over 27.5 longest reception. If you want to take his yards, I think that's perfectly fine as well. He's Jacksonville's last in pass defense DVOA, and they play a ton of man. I mean, obviously, Justin Jefferson is not the guy you want to play man on, especially if your secondary is leaky. So interested to see if they kind of get out of the tendencies or not. He's over in half of the games, but he's landed 27 in 3 of the games that he missed. So I think they played 8 games total. So he's over in 4. But in 3 of those games, he's literally landed 27. So he's right there. He's getting opportunities to go. If you look at the Jacksonville defense, 15 pass catchers have gone over this number. 1 running back, 4 tight ends, 10 wide receivers. Obviously, Jetta, one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. I think he's going to get ample opportunity. Darnold is extremely accurate on those long passes. He's around 57% on deep passes of 20-plus yards. I mean, all it takes is 1. But even if you can get him a little tunnel screen, a shallow cross, I think he can go to distance. So I like him over 27.5 longest reception. And I was looking at some of the Jacksonville receivers, like their receiving core is banged up. So is Davis in? Like is Thomas in? Like what did you have anything for those guys?
Let's see here.
They both were like questionable throughout the week. I know Thomas didn't practice. Davis was like a late scratch last week. So I'm kind of like in between on what to do with them.
Yeah, let me see if
the reason why you do that. I mean, the reason why I'm asking is Minnesota, they've allowed 100+ yard receiver in 4 of the last 5 games and 6 of the last 8 and 6 of their 8 overall. So, and one of those 3 yard receivers landed, I think 94. So they're having trouble, with the blitzing. It's going to be some open windows for Mac Jones to throw. I just don't know who he's going to be throwing it to if those guys are kind of banged up.
Well, I'll tell you this much, that Mac Jones is starting here for the Jaguars. But it says Gabe Davis listed as questionable for Sunday's game, is expected to play. Brian Thomas is also expected to play as well.
Yeah. I would take. I would probably look at Thomas as the more upside pick. Play him up to 100+ if you want to ladder him up. I mean, I think he's good. I think he's got a good matchup here. Obviously, the scheme of Flores and everything is fine, but he blitzes a lot, and so all it takes is a couple broken tackles, and Thomas can be off to the races. So yeah, I mean, and it's the metrics show that they are susceptible to 100-yard wide receivers. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't play it like the small. I would go for a more bigger bang for your buck. Just play him, the ladders until you get to the plus sign. Like anything with a plus sign beside him, I would ladder that up.
I'm so tempted to take the over passing yards on Mac Jones. So tempted to take.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. What is it?
Low I see 206 and a half on DraftKings.
It's low. That's low. I might put that in. Yeah.
It's the fact that we know like the Vikings running game or rush defense, I should say, has been really, really good thus far this season. You could get a 204.5 right now over on FanDuel. Bet Rivers has it at 202.5, but consensus right now is 206.5 there. But again, you take a look at what just quarterbacks have been able to do against the Vikings, just because how great their rush defense has been. I would be tempted by that. Agree about Justin Jefferson, what you mentioned there. Either or, if you want to take his longest completion or longest reception or his yardage over, couldn't talk you off of that. Sam Darnold, if you want to back him in some way here, whether it's his passing touchdowns to go over 1.5 or his longest yardage, or sorry, his yardage to go over in this game. I think that's a good look here as
Yeah, I
well
agree.
for Darnold here today.
Yep.
So those are the two that I liked on actually the Jacksonville Jaguars side. Anything else, Lonte, for this game?
No, we're good. I think we covered it all.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it moving here. We'll go over to the Denver Broncos. They are visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs currently laying 7.5 in this game, with a total of 42.5 here. Anything for Broncos Chiefs here, Lonte?
Yeah, I didn't have a ton here. I mean, Kansas City, I don't know how you bet player props for Kansas City. I mean, you never know who's going to do what. So I kind of stay away from them. On the Denver side, I was looking at Cortland Sutton, but somebody was hammering his unders. I was looking for his unders as well because wide receiver ones don't do good versus Kansas City. And obviously you can't run the ball. So I was looking at some running backs under as well. But I don't know what the split is going to be. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I was looking at Javonte Williams under. I was looking at Cortland Sutton under, but I just don't know. Game script could get away from them, and they're just kind of chunking it all over the place. But yeah, I passed over here. I passed on this one. If I had to look at anything, I would look at Javonte Williams under. I think it was like 34, if I'm not mistaken. 34 and a half. His rushing yards.
Let's see.
It could be lower than that. I think it was 34 when I looked earlier in the week.
Javonte Williams is at 35.5.
Yeah, okay, so that's about right. Yeah, I would probably look under there. I mean, you can't run the ball in Kansas City. It's just impossible.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton. I'm looking up his head-to-head numbers against the.
Yeah, he had 2 good games, but
he's only recorded more than 5 catches in one of the 9 head-to-head meetings in his career. So if you want to take a look at the under on his receptions, like you mentioned, they've been doing a pretty good job against. Wide receiver ones have the Kansas City Chiefs there. The numbers right now at now it's down to 3.5 over 3.5.
Bro, somebody is hammering him. I think he opened like 55 or 54. Now he's down to like 45.
His number right now is at 45.5. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he opened like low 50s, which is
Yeah, I'm so tempted by D-Hop in this game. I think he's going to continue getting those looks from.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Patrick Mahomes. I mean, we know he's not really a big down the field threat, and they don't really need him to be since you have Xavier Worthy there. But I mean, we know that he's had, at least when early on in his career, he had some of the best hands, honestly, in the entire league. That he rarely dropped passes. So if you get back to that form with Patrick Mahomes, I think there's a good opportunity for him to start racking up the receptions as well. I really didn't have much else for the Broncos Chiefs. Typically, you want to back tight ends against the Chiefs, but those guys have pretty much been non-existent. For the Denver Broncos is Adam Troutman. That's pretty much it. So yeah. All right, that's all I had for this game. You got anything else?
No, I'm with you though. I'm with you 100%. I mean, I was gonna look at the tight ends, but who the hell is Denver's tight end? Like,
I don't have know.
Yeah, so yeah.
All right, let's get over to a NFC South matchup. We've got the Atlanta Falcons there in New Orleans to take on the Saints here. Saints catching 3.5 points here at home. With a total of 46.5 here, Lonte. Anything for Falcons Saints?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara over 100 and what is this? 13.5 rush receiving. He had, I think, 127 in the last matchup. Dual threat backs really have success against Atlanta. Obviously, he's got the familiarity with playing them 2 times a year throughout his career. Lack of weapons for New Orleans. They're down Olave. They're down Shaheed. Obviously, guys, that they've been without. But Carr's back in his first game. In his first game back, he threw for 236, and a lot of that had to do with Alvin Kamara kind of checked down. I think he had 7 receptions for like 70+ yards. So he had 200 plus last game. So I think they're going to lean on him heavily here. So I like him over. Let me get the right number. Let me just find it real quick.
What is this for? You looking for?
Rush receiving. I see 112.5. It's minus 120 though. Yeah, 112.5 minus 120. I like that. I'm gonna go with Derek Carr over 206.5 passing yards. That should be minus 110ish. Similar to what you were saying with the Jacksonville thing. I just think it's pretty much too low. I mean, Atlanta's bottom 5 in pass defense DVOA. They're 30th in pressure rate. So he's going to have a clean pocket. Usually when he has a clean pocket, he's pretty good. It's just whenever you put pressure on him and force him to get off his spot is where he struggles. I mean, he had 239 in a week 4 matchup. He did have Olave and Shaheed. But again, like I was saying earlier, he had 236 in his first game back, and that was without Olave. I think he got injured in like the first quarter. So a lot of that's going to be to Alvin Kamara. So I think these are kind of correlated here. So I like David Carr. That's his brother. Derek Carr, over 206.5 passing yards, and Kamara, rush receiving 112 over.
Don't bring up those timers with me with David Carr.
Yeah, I forgot, bro. I forgot.
Yeah, I didn't have much for this game, but I agree about what you said about those guys. Alvin Kamara, he was a monster last week against the Panthers. Excuse me, and of course, with all the injuries that they are dealing with right now, they're really going to need him to step up.
Yeah.
Falcons side, Drake London was banged up a little bit. I think I'm not sure if it was a shoulder or what it was with Drake London, but he is expected to play here today against the Saints. Can never talk anyone off of Bijan, of course. He's having a pretty good season.
Didn't play well against New Orleans though. Like 20, he had like 28 yards rushing. Yeah, he didn't play. Yeah. I was looking at his under. It's like 71. Is it still 71?
His rushing yards is at 71.5. Yeah.
Yeah, I might look at that under as well. Yeah, I'll throw that under. Yeah, give me under on Bijan. I think he had like 12 carries for 28. Algier really had a decent day against New Orleans, and they're switching schemes. So with Dennis Allen out, it's a newer scheme, something that that hasn't been put on film. So I think he might have some success catching the ball, but I don't know about rushing.
Let's see here. So last season he did have a game of 91, but then the last two matchups he's had 28 each, and also the carries combined the last two games have been at 18. But if we want to take a look at his receiving yards in this game, that might be the pivot. Definitely. If you want to back Bijan here, that number is sitting at, where is Bijan? 28.5. 3 games in his career against the Saints, 32, 103, and 46 this season. So that might be worth a look here for Bijan here today against the Saints. All right, anything else for this game, Lonte?
That's it, man. I think we covered it.
All right, let's keep it rolling here, man. Next game on the board, we'll go over to the Pittsburgh Steelers, excuse me, against the Washington Commanders. Commanders laying 2 points in this game with a total of 45 here, Lonte. Any player props you like in this game?
Just one, really. I know. So I'm going to go with Jaylen Warren over 45.5 rushing receiving yards. I know Patterson is back, and he'll take away some of the snaps from both Najee and Jaylen. But I think Jaylen's been playing really well. He's over in 2 of 3 since returning from injury. He's averaging around 59 on 25 touches in the 2 games that he went over. And the game that he didn't go over was his first game back. So I kind of a little bit of a mulligan there. Washington, 28 in rush success rate allowed. And Pittsburgh runs the ball on 56.7% of the time. So I think if you mix those two together with his ability to get out of the backfield on a screen, they do throw more screens to him. Obviously, he's a pass catching back on 3rd down. And he outsnapped Najee in like 2 of the 3 games as well. So I think they're going to rotate those guys, keep them fresh. I don't really trust the front of Washington. Don't trust their linebackers to cover Jaylen as well. So I like him over 45.5 rush receiving yards.
Yeah, I do like George Pickens in this game. Seems like with Russell Wilson taking over as a quarterback, that he's obviously been the beneficiary of that. And we know that Russell Wilson at least can throw a pretty good deep ball. I know they added Mike Williams over the trade deadline, but I'm not sure how effective he's going to be. But Pickens over the first 2 games with Wilson as a quarterback, 111 receiving yards against the New York Jets, and then he had 74 against the New York Giants there. And I also like his longest reception to go over. Yeah. Another guy I was looking at as well for longest reception, Calvin Austin. His number was at 14.5. He's been really, really good in those spots there against the opposition, just getting those big catches for this offense. And I think that Russell Wilson will continue to push the ball down the field against the secondary, because I don't think Marshawn Lattimore is going to be ready this week here for the Commanders, as they did acquire him at the trade deadline there. So those were the 3 I was looking at there. George Pickens, and then also Calvin Austin, longest reception over 14.5 here. You have anything else for this game?
Yeah, so if you could find, I bet this earlier, if you can find some, I think FanDuel does it as well. FanDuel and DraftKings, I think they do it. I just didn't want to give it up because I don't know how widely available it is. Matchups, if you can find George Pickens more receiving yards than Terry McLaurin, I think it's a great bet. I think it's a great bet.
Let me see if we can find it.
I think that's. I think Pickens should be laying a few yards, but not many. But I mean, McLaurin hasn't been. I mean, he's obviously the focal point, but he hasn't been as effective as of late. And I think Pittsburgh's secondary will kind of, even him out.
Pittsburgh game.
It should be under player match or like H2H, like head to head.
Yeah, so Pickens is -5.5.
Yeah, 5.5. Yep. Like
money lines -135 on that.
Yeah, perfect.
The total is 123.5 between those two guys.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a pretty good find there.
Yeah, I like.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. Let's get over to the San Francisco 49ers. They are in Tampa to take on the Bucks. Niners currently laying 6.5 in this game with a total of 50.5. Of course, the big news of this game, the return of CMC for the San Francisco 49ers here, Lonte. But any thoughts on the Niners and the Bucks as far as player props?
Love Brock Purdy over 259.5 passing yards. I laddered him up all the way up to like 325. I think he's getting a lot of his weapons back. I mean, obviously, sans Ayuk, but CMC adds another dimension to the offense. They also can be able to play Mason and even Garendo also in the backfield because they can split CMC out. Now, I'm not sure how a snap count is going to be. I know a lot of people are expecting like the full workload for him, which is fine. I like to not bet on guys who are coming off injuries, especially that significant. So I'm going to stay away from him. But I do think the offense opens up a little bit more with him on the field, just being a decoy or whatever the case may be. So I think Brock Purdy can have a good day. QBs are over this number in 3 straight and 4 of the last 5 versus Tampa. He's averaging Brock is averaging 288 on the road this year, 7 touchdowns to 1 interception ratio in that span as well. I think this offense has a big day. I don't see this is a tough spot for Tampa as well. Their secondary did get a little bit healthier, but yeah, I think Purdy's going to light them up today. And I know this is kind of going to be unpopular, but I like Cade Otton under 58.5 receiving yards. Only 2 tight ends have gone over this versus San Francisco this year. The linebackers for San Francisco are elite in coverage and just getting to the ball. I can just run down a list of the tight ends like Ferguson 6 for 23, Kelsey 4 for 17. Thant did go over 6 for 63. McBride 5 for 53. Henry 2 for 12. Whittington and Parkinson both had under 30 yards. Conklin 1 for 6. So one guy over this number. Now they are getting targeted, but they just San Francisco rallied to the ball at some of the best. So I know Otton's going to get a ton of targets, but I think they can take him away, kind of scheme him out of that game and force Baker to throw to those receivers. So yeah, Cade Otton under 58.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I mean, Cade Otton's been a popular guy over the past several weeks, especially with the injuries that the Bucs suffered to wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 there with Evans and Chris Godwin. But I think when you're going up against this type of defense, that somebody else is gonna have to beat them. I'll go to the other tight end. I like George Kittle to go over in this game. We mentioned about the Niners being a good defense against tight ends. The Bucs have been one of the worst, and I think this is going to be a big George Kittle week for the Niners. I think you're 100% correct about CMC. That not sure how many yards that he is going to get, snap counts he is going to get. You kind of want to ease his way back in after missing, obviously the first 9 weeks here for the 49ers, and want to keep him healthy for the playoffs. But I think that the Niners will be ready to go, have a huge rest advantage in this matchup. They're coming off the bye week. Bucs coming off an overtime loss on Monday Night Football. So that's huge for them. So I did play George Kittle over on his receiving yards. I think the number was 58.5 when I played it. Let me find you guys the updated number here for his receiving yards. George Kittle is right now it's up to 61.5 now for him, but I still like it there. I'm not sure which running back is going to have the receiving yards for the Bucs, whether it's Bucky Irving or Rachaad White. They've just kind of been juggling those two guys, as far as snap counts and, production from those two guys. So maybe something to keep an eye on live betting. But George Kittle was my main one in this game between the Niners and the Bucs. Anything else for this game here, Lonte?
That's it.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. Next game on the board, we'll go over to the Patriots and the Bears. Bears laying 6.5 here at home against the Patriots with a total of 37.5 here. Lonte, you got anything for Pats and the Bears?
I'm hoping you do because I have nothing. I mean, Chicago is like in disarray. They got people, DJ Moore walking out on plays. You got guys getting sent home from practice, guys staying home from practice. Like, I don't know, but I do like New England's fight though. Like, it's not player prop driven, but like they're fighting, and Drake May is doing a great job with the lack of. I mean, he literally has zero weapons. I mean, other than Hunter Henry and Stevenson. Like, he has zero weapons. Offensive line's a mess, and he's still like doing amazing, keeping his guys in the game. I would look at his rushing yards if anything, but it's kind of got overinflated because he's been killing his rushing prop. Like every week he's been killing his rushing prop. So I would look there. I mean, New England's last in pass block win rate. Chicago is top 10 in pass rush win rate. So if you just add those together, I can see him taking off a ton in this game. But again, the concussion stuff kind of bothers me, which is why I don't want to give it out.
Yeah, I didn't have anything for this game here as well. One of the games I did cross off my list first. If I look at May rushing yards, I think that would be my only look in this game. I just don't know where else to look. Just curious to see what his number is as far as rushing yards for Drake May. Let's see here. Drake May. 29.5. So it's moving to 30.5. It's minus 135. Choose to the over there. So yeah, couldn't talk you off of that. All right, let's get over to the 4 o'clock window here. We've got the Tennessee Titans. They are in LA to take on the Chargers. Chargers are laying 8 points in this game with a total of 40 here. Lonte, do you have anything for Titans Chargers?
Well, I think I'm going to be forced to back the Titans here, even with Will Levis. But I like Tajay Spears over 36.5 rushing receiving yards. He's back. The Chargers have issues with dual threat backs. If you look at Connor, he had 157. Hunt and Harris had 86. Chuba Hubbard had 76. Now, obviously, Spears is more of a pass catcher versus those guys being more dual threat. And I think Pollard's a bit banged up. He had a big game last week, but he was still banged up. Obviously, they'll probably try to limit his snap count. But from all I've read, Tajay Spears is going to be a full go. He's had 2+ receptions in 4 of his 5 games that he's played. Only around 6.5 rush attempts. So I think you see that increase if he can get right around 8 or 9 attempts, and can get 19 to 20 yards. I think he can get the rest through the air with those receptions. So that's the only one I have with Tajay Spears.
Yeah, I didn't have much for this game. I know Tennessee's pass defense has been really good.
Yeah, definitely. But the Chargers, like, they can beat you, and they don't even have to pass the ball. Like, they can go full, just hand the ball off to Dobbins.
Yeah. So I'm not going to force anything in this game here. All right, let's move it along here to a 4:25 Eastern start time. The Philadelphia Eagles, they're in Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Eagles laying 7 points here on the road, total of 43.5. Obviously, the big news in this game, no Dak Prescott probably for the rest of the year. And then we also do see the return of Micah Parsons for the Dallas Cowboys. Eagle side of things, pretty healthy squad. But Lonte, anything for Eagles and Cowboys?
You think Dallas live in this game? Just quick.
You know what? It's been a weird season. I mean, I would not be shocked if
I think they're live.
If they do win, because number one, or if at least they cover the number.
Yeah.
But number one, you have the Eagles that are playing on Thursday night against the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a look ahead spot for them as well. But again, anytime you play Dallas, you kind of really still have that focus just because it is Dallas.
Yeah.
But we'll be shocked if the Dallas Cowboys won outright. I don't think anybody would be, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think they're live. But I mean, I don't think the downgrade from Dak to Cooper is that big because Dak was banged up to start with. And he's got experience in Mike McCarthy's system. So like it's not like it's his first start or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? So
5-1 straight up, I think, in his career as a starter.
Right. So I don't think the downgrade is as big as is adjusted. I think CeeDee Lamb is extremely low. I think he's at 65. Is he still at 65.5? It should be $1.20.
I mean, if he's at 65.5, I would still play the over.
I think he's at 65.5.
I feel like that Cooper Rush would probably look more towards the tight ends, where I kind of a pivot to Jake Ferguson.
Yeah, I played both of them.
But his numbers are 66.5 now. Jake Ferguson 39.5.
Yeah, both of those are too low. I mean, wide receiver ones have done pretty well against Philadelphia. 80+ yards allowed. to their wide receiver ones in 4 of the last 8. I know, or 4 of their 8 games. Bro, you know that he's gonna get like peppered with targets. Like CD's gonna get peppered with targets. The only reason I can see, like, I know he had the shoulder injury, so how healthy is he? So I can kind of see the con to, you know, the negative side to it. But
Yeah.
I mean, 65 yards. I mean, this CD Lamb we talking about. So yeah, I like that. I like Ferguson as well. I mean, check down over the middle. Philadelphia's defense susceptible there as well. Yeah, I think both of those guys have good days. You said 39.5 was for Ferguson?
Yeah, 39.5.
Yeah, that's fine. I like both of those over.
I also kind of like Rico Dowdle on his receiving yards, 16.5.
Don't hate that either.
You mentioned like the check downs. I think like those swing passes and even screen passes. I can think they could be there for him. And it's not like he hasn't been involved in the offense for the Cowboys. But I think that's a good opportunity for him. I think it's a good buy low spot for him at 16.5.
Yeah,
For Rico Dowdle. Yeah. As far as the Eagles side, I mean, you would probably look at Saquon just because how bad the Cowboys defense has been overall, but especially on the ground as well. So if you want to look at his rushing yards, I think it was like a 91.5 or something like that. I think that might be a look here as well. But yeah, Rico Dowdle was that, and Jake Ferguson, like you mentioned, was pretty much the guys I'll be looking at. Anything else in this game?
That's it.
All right. Let's keep it moving here. Let's get over to the New York Jets. They are going to be in Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Jets currently laying 2 points. I think 1.5 now is the number, with a total of 46.5 here, Lonte. Anything for Jets Cardinals?
Yeah, man. Love Marvin Harrison Jr. under 46.5 receiving yards. They bumped him down. I think it was like mid 50s or mid to low 50s last week. He's been good against bad teams. Like he's had his big games versus bad secondaries. Lions and Dolphins is where he had those big breakout games. If you look at what he's done against good secondaries, 34 versus Chicago, 20. You would classify the Chargers as an above average secondary, correct? Right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they haven't allowed more than 20 points all season. So I don't care if they're being a really good rush defense or a pass defense. I mean, when you're able to do that, that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So 21 yards versus them. He had 36 versus San Francisco. He's under in 6 of 9. And really, he only had one good. He's had like one good game and then one good quarter. So I guess like 5 quarters of good Marvin Harrison Jr. football. But I don't see it here. Going to be. This is one of the better secondaries in the NFL. He's probably going to get a lot of sauce. So I don't see him having any success here. I don't really see them actually having to throw the ball. I mean, they can run the ball a ton with Connor and Murray, because that rush defense for the Jets is, pretty bad. So yeah, I like him under. I'm gonna go with Trey McBride over 54.5 receiving yards. He's been a bit up and down over the past month, but good spot here. If you look at some tight ends, Brymu 51, Kincaid 61, Kittle 40, Henry 45. So I think it's a good spot here, especially over the middle of the field. The linebackers for the Jets are more like rush heavy, like stopping the rush versus stopping the pass, and he'll have a lot of linebackers on him when he splits out wide. So McBride over 54.5 receiving yards as well.
Yeah, don't hate that. I mean, I was just looking at a dime that Bryce Young just threw. That was a nice throw. Yeah, I agree about James Conner. You mentioned that running backs have been pretty good against the Jets. Joe Mixon last week had a good week. I think it was Najee Harris that had a really good week in week 7 as well. To put up the exact numbers, 21 for 102 for Najee. Ray Davis also had a pretty good week there for the Buffalo Bills against the Jets as well. So I can talk you off of those two for James Conner receiving yards in this game. Or sorry, rushing yards. Garrett Wilson, longest reception over. With the addition of Devontae Adams there, I think that opens up the opportunities for for Garrett Wilson down the field at least. And he's done this, I think, in 5 of the 9 games on his number. I think it was at 22.5 for Garrett Wilson. Devontae Adams now is going to turn into that guy that is just going to be, running those routes, not really being that downfield threat, where now you have Garrett Wilson that's a little bit more explosive, that has, the speed that he can get down the field, and Aaron Rodgers can find him there. So couldn't talk you off of Garrett Wilson. I did play that on his longest reception to go over for Garrett Wilson there. We'll talk about the touchdown props here in a I'll probably hear it in a minute because I do like either Devontae or Garrett Wilson, especially when they're at plus odds here. All right, Delonte, Sunday Night Football. The Detroit Lions, they are in my part of the world here to take on the Texans. Updated number right now, Texans catching 3.5 points in this game with a total of 49.5 here, Lonte. What are you looking at for Lions and Texans?
I love the Texans in this spot for sure. Yeah, man, I like CJ Stroud tonight. Over 239.5 passing yards. That's at minus 15. Over 1.5 touchdowns was at an absurd 125. Nico's been activated. So it obviously adds another layer to this offense. I mean, you can speak on it a little bit better than me. Detroit's second worst DVOA versus wide receiver ones, allowing 96.8 yards. So that's a good segue for Nico, to come back, and assuming he's going to be a full participant, like to do what he normally does, like on his routine. I like that. It's not been good. It wasn't a good October for CJ. He was under in 3 of his 4 games. The attempts were there. But without 2 of his top weapons, he kind of struggled a bit. I think the week off plus Nico being back helps that out. He's also played 3 of those 4 games, the October games, on the road. So he's back at home where he's comfortable, got a week off to get ready. He's averaging around 306 passing yards at home to go along with a 5-to-1 ratio, TD to interception ratio. Performed very well against poor secondaries, Jags, Indy, Buffalo when they were banged up. If you look at some of the guys that have had success, Love 273, Rudolph 266, Darnold 259, Stafford 317. All of these guys have success against the secondary. I don't see why CJ Stroud can't have a big bounce back night. I'll be laddering him up as well. Yeah, man, I think CJ Stroud has a monster day, hopefully for your Texans. But I think he is going to absolutely destroy the secondary.
Yeah, so Nico Collins, like you mentioned, did get activated. They still had listed him as questionable, but I fully expect him to be out there for this Texans team. I know the Lions were pretty good against the running back position, but over the last 2 weeks, they have gotten torched on the ground. Tony Pollard went for 20 for 94. Julius Chestnut added 7 for 32, so they gave him 126 there. And then last week, Josh Jacobs had a pretty good week as well, 13 rushes, 95 yards on the ground. Emmanuel Wilson, 4 for 28. So, again, Joe Mixon has just been a workhorse and the bell cow for this team. And that might be more so that because Nico Collins has been out and obviously the loss of Stephon Diggs there, Lonte probably played into it. But he's had at least 24 carries over the last 3 weeks for the Texans. But so it'll be interesting to see for what really the plan of attack will be for the Texans, whether it's through the air or whether it's going to be just continuing to feed the ball to Joe Mixon. But even if they are, I think that they could get some play action pass off of that as well. 4 straight weeks now, Joe Mixon, 102 or more rushing yards for this Texans team. So, I don't know where the hell we would be without a guy like Joe Mixon this season. And that goes to the fact that he was injured in that second game of the season against I think it was a Bears game, if I'm not mistaken there. But yeah, all right. I didn't have much else for this Texans-Lions game. So I'll leave it at that. All right, last game, Monday Night Football here, Lonte. Dolphins and Rams. Rams right now currently laying 1.5, total 48.5. Anything for Dolphins, Rams?
Man, I didn't have a ton. I don't know what to do with either of these teams, to be honest. I don't know if Puka's gonna hit somebody in the face or what's going on. So, I stayed away from this one. The Dolphins, like, what? I have no idea. They're like the best. What are they, like, 2-7? Yeah, they're like one of the best 2-7 teams. Like, I have no idea how they. Obviously, Tua injury, but still, a couple of those games they should have won without him. But it's too much uncertainty. I stayed away unless you got something for me.
So I think last week was the dream crusher for the Miami Dolphins. They were competitive in that game against the Bills to only lose to that long field goal that Tyler Bass made late in that fourth quarter, pretty much the game-winning one. And now you have to travel all the way across the country to face the Rams, who have actually been pretty good, right? Like, the squad's healthy now, right? Yeah. Like, you got Kyren Williams back. Obviously, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp is back as well. So I just think that the Rams are, I mean, they're in a fight for that division right now. And all four of those teams in that NFC West division all have 4 wins. So honestly, it's really a toss up right now of whose division this could be. I know the Niners, they got back CMC. Maybe they're primed to go on a run a little bit here now. But so I feel like these are just two teams that are going in opposite directions here. So um, yeah, I really haven't dug a lot into the player props of this game. I couldn't talk you off of Devon Achan anytime touchdown in this game. He's just been a guy, especially when Tua's in the game. Lonte, like, if you just take a look at the numbers with Devon Achan this season with Tua under center, he's getting a lot of the receiving yards, or he's getting a lot of targets in the passing game. But now the number, I think they've kind of priced it out, and I can't bet it even at 45.5 now, where we were getting it like 25.5 early in the season. For Devon Achan, I just couldn't get there anymore. Raheem Mostert receiving yards is tempting to me at 6.5 because this is a guy that could get on one catch. And like I mentioned, that Tua, if that big play's not down the field, well, there is a Tyreek is still officially questionable for this game with a foot injury. Jalen Waddle, I don't know what's going on with him this season.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, that's been the biggest question mark for me this season about what's going on with Jalen Waddle. So that kind of just leaves the running backs here to kind of be involved in that passing game. So Raheem Mostert over 6.5 receiving yards. I think that's something I would be tempted by. I'll dig a little bit more into that. As we do get into the Monday Night Football game, obviously on Monday. But that's all I had. Did you have anything else for this Dolphins-Rams game?
That's it, man. That's it.
All right, so let's put together our touchdown parlay for NFL Week 10. Here, Lonte, I had mentioned earlier that I mean, at plus odds, I can't pass up Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson. You have a preference on those two guys?
I don't. I would assume both. Arizona's pass defense is not good. I think they're bottom 5 in pressure rate. They're also like bottom 5, and they don't blitz a ton. So I think Aaron Rodgers could have a good day. I think maybe both of them score, but I guess whoever has the highest odds, I think it's got a coin flip.
It's at plus 125 now. Like, I think it was like plus 155 for Garrett Wilson earlier this week. Yeah. And then I think Devontae Adams at plus 135, but they've now both leveled out.
Yeah.
I think I'll probably go with Garrett Wilson, honestly, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind either or.
All right. So we'll throw in Garrett Wilson to start it off here. It's at plus 125. All right. What do you like?
Let's go Deebo Samuel. I think he gets to the end zone. It opens up that seam behind CMC going the short routes underneath. I think we know what Deebo can do with his hand, when he gets his hand on the ball. So let's go with Deebo.
I'm just shaking my head because they have Christian McCaffrey listed as minus 240 for anytime touchdown for his first game back after missing the first 9 weeks. All right.
What is his first touchdown? His first touchdown, I would bet that. I know it's pretty low, but I would bet that.
Plus 380.
Yeah, I would bet that.
All right. What else? Who else do you like here to find the end zone?
What else do we have here?
I'm curious to see what.
You like Pickens, right? What's Pickens? You like Pickens?
Yeah, I like Pickens. He's at plus 170. Warren's at 3-1 if you like Jalen Warren.
Yeah, I think he'll have a decent day. I just don't know. He'll have to break one. I think once they get to the goal line, it'll be Patterson or Najee. I don't think he's more. I think he's, even though he's bigger. I think he's bigger than both of those guys. I think they're just more elusive, making guys miss.
I'll throw in Ogo Pickens, and he's at plus 170. Those are good odds.
I like Pickens.
Let's find one more here.
You want to go tight end? You like Kittle? Oh no, well, we got somebody from that game, but I know you like Kittle.
I'd rather stick with Deebo.
What about
which one is his higher scoring games here today?
Yeah.
Let's see.
What about TJ Hawkinson? Love TJ Hawkinson. Second game back. Yep. He should be a nice price.
Vikings. Yeah, 3-1.
Yeah, let's go with Hawkinson.
That'll boost us up a little bit. Yeah. All right, so let me take this out. All right, and as soon as I put in George Pickens, he drops to plus 160. All right, so here's our touchdown parlay for the week. This will get you actually exactly 54-1 here. So we're gonna go with we'll go George Pickens. We'll go Garrett Wilson. We'll go Deebo Samuel. And we'll go TJ Hawkinson to find the end zone here tonight. Hawkinson, I'll just type it out on the screen here. That'll get you to plus 5,400.
You're gonna hit one of those.
There you go. All right. So George Pickens, Garrett Wilson, Deebo, and TJ Hawkinson for our anytime touchdown parlay this week, 54-1 to get it done this week. Hopefully we get it to the window here. Still looking for our first one, but I think we're getting closer and closer. I think we had a couple of weeks where we've got 3 out of the 4.
Yeah, tough.
But yeah, 4. I mean, trying to go for 4.
Yeah, let's get it.
It's honestly really difficult here, but again, 54-1 for this week here.
All we need is one. All we needed to hit is one. We win. We're in the plus sign. Yeah.
Yep, that's all we need. All right, that's gonna do it here for this NFL Week 10 pregame show. Lonte, anything else you want to mention, my man, before we get out of here?
That's it, man. Yeah, I mean, the slate is pretty underrated. I think it's a pretty good slate. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be a fun week of NFL. NFL.
Unless you're a Giants fan. Unless you're a Giants fan.
Yeah, unless you're a Giants fan. Well, they're getting the ball back right now, entering the fourth quarter. So we'll see if they can come back here as they trail 17-7. Yeah, make sure you guys follow my guy Lonte over on Twitter at XXLonteXX. You can follow me there as well at SportsNerd824. And if you haven't already subscribed to the Propcast YouTube channel or on Spotify or Apple Podcast, do us a favor. Please do us that favor. We would greatly appreciate it. And we'll be back next week for NFL Week 11 pregame show. So look out for us then. All right. Enjoy the games on Sunday here. Don't forget to tune in with Sean and Kramer. Their pregame show kicks off in about 12 minutes at the top of the hour. Just go over there to the Gambling Podcast, and those guys will take your phone calls. They'll get you your last-minute start and sit guys. First half parlay from Kramer, of course, and any last-minute bets that they also will have in the game there. All right, we'll talk to you guys next week. Enjoy the games, and we'll talk to you guys down the road.